Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. Iced latte from my local caffeine dealer. So today's video is going to be a book review or just kind of like talking about my thoughts about All Hail Chaos by Sarah Rees Brennan. Now, if you have been on this channel for a while, a couple of years ago, just pull it out right now, I read Long Live Evil by Sarah Rees Brennan. This is the first book in the Time of Iron series. And this was a 5-star read for me. I really loved it. It left off in a crazy place, and it was like intense, insane. Everyone's trying to figure out what's going to happen in the second book, you know? And it was so good. I've raved about it ever since. But it took 2 years for the sequel to come out. So the sequel is what we're going to be talking about today. It is out now. I got a NetGalley audio arc, and I just finished it moments before filming this. But it is already out. It came out on the 12th of May. So I don't have a physical copy yet because I was hoping to get the Fairy Loot edition, even though it's not coming out for a while. Regardless, I've read it. So I've read the sequel, All Hail Chaos. I wanted to talk about it. The nature of this video, because it's a sequel, it's going to have spoilers. So if you haven't read the first book, I would recommend you not watch this unless you want to be spoiled. But just buckle up. So the first book, you're following Ray, who is terminally ill. She has a cancer diagnosis, and she's terminally ill, and she's dying. And a mysterious stranger comes into her hospital room and tells her that if she is willing to accept this mission to go into this fictional world and retrieve this magical flower, if she gets it and brings it back, or she gets it and eats it and brings it back, a little bit of the minutia, I forget, she will survive in the real world. But you're transformed into, she's going into her favorite fantasy book series, The Time of Iron, but the kind of catch is that you're transported into the character that they think you are most like as a human in the real world. So, she's transformed into the beauty dipped in blood, the beauty dressed in blood, who's a villainess, and then she knows that this character is sentenced to die, will die. Like in the plot, because it's her favorite series. So she tries to manipulate the story after she gets portaled into this fantasy world, and she realizes who she is, Rahela, and she's trying to change the story so that she survives. It's a really fun story, but through her trying to control the narrative, trying to make things different things happen, she meets other characters that are in the story that are also humans that have been stuck in the story. So that's an interesting element as well, and that's a spoiler for this whole series, so I mean, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into if you're watching this video, though. Everybody's trying to change these awful things from happening. But in doing so, the story kind of has the same trajectory, but also things start changing. And the story starts changing and things start being different than what they read in the books. And it's a really interesting premise and story and execution. It's funny, it's adventurous, but it's also got some dramatic elements, some jump scare kind of stuff. There's a lot of magic involved in her fantasy world where there's like the cauldron, which is kind of like the village, and then there's this like pit. I can't remember what the pit is called, and I just read it, but there's this like pit where there's lots of like dark magic, and that dark magic is kind of laced with red, and there's just a lot of things going on but it's really good. So she has this person that she pulled out from the slums named Key. And people that are not wealthy or are not, like, well-to-do in society, like, would have nothing to do with court in general in this world. She's part of the court and is kind of like the king's consort. She's like a seductress, villainess, vixen type character. She pulls this guy out of the slums. His name is Key. And anyone that is not in court is given names of ordinary objects or things like that. So his name is Key. He is basically a sociopath. Like, he likes her because she's also kind of dark and twisted and scheming, and he protects like his friends, and he's like a part of this crew that they assemble, but he doesn't have a lot of remorse for killing or bad things as long as he feels like it's to protect her, and he really attaches himself to her. And through lots of things happening in the book, he like sleeps outside of her door, and he watches over her, and he will do anything for her, and they kind of start falling for each other and developing some feels, and they share a kiss. But in the midst of this, she knows that in order to kill the king, because she thinks he's going to become this like evil person, this evil emperor that's horrible, she shoves the king into the abyss. But I think in order to gain his trust, she ends up kind of in this situation where Key's throat gets cut by one of the guards, and he falls into the abyss. And then she pushes the king into the abyss, thinking he's going to become the emperor, thinking he's going to die, and it's going to be great, and he's going to become the hero of the story, basically. But what ends up happening is Key ascends from the pit. That's what it's called, the pit. Ascends from the pit, and he has a throat, like a scar from where his throat was slit, and he's actually the ever-powerful emperor that's her favorite character of her stories. Mind blown, right? That's how the first book ends. So then you're picking up where Key is alive. He's resurrected. He's pissed because he was murdered and kind of sacrificed. He likes or is in love with, obsessed with Rahela, the beauty dipped in blood. And now she's stuck with her actions and the consequences of such. So he comes out, and all hell chaos. I liked it. I didn't like it as much as the first one, just because I feel like the first one just has that certain spark, that certain je ne sais quoi, that certain element that made it more enjoyable, that made it more fun, adventurous, funny, but also dangerous and scheming. This one is a lot more like, this person, this Emperor Key, is so unhinged that you're just like, is he gonna kill everyone? Is he gonna kill her? How is the story gonna develop? Because he's so unpredictable and chaotic. But it's also so fun because it's her favorite character, and it's fun watching that interaction happen because she's like, why is this really romantic and amazing and fun when you're reading about it in books? Because again, he's her favorite character. But when you're living it out, it's kind of scary. And she doesn't know if she wants somebody killing for her and willing to do all these awful things and like snap on a dime and be like, don't touch her and die. Talk about her and die. Like, talk bad about her and die. Like, you'll be mine forever. You can't escape me. And she's like, why is this really attractive in books? But now that I'm living it out, it's kind of scary. It's kind of terrifying. So Rahela doesn't know what to do. And she knows that he's like unhinged and just uncontrollable, and that in this world, there's like gods, and they think that he is an ascended son of a god, which I think he is. But so he kind of opens up to her a little bit and talks about some stuff. He can't read because he's like in poverty and all of this stuff, and she doesn't know what to do. So she starts kind of scheming a little bit because she knows, at least knows, maybe that's not the case, but she knows he's gonna kill her. She's like, there's no way I'm getting out of this alive, because he knows that I betrayed him, and he knows that because of me, he was killed, and now he's back, and he still has fondness for me, but he can't trust me, and he's gonna kill me. And there's kind of like a little bit of banter in between where he's like, my lady. He still calls her my lady, which is something he called her from the beginning. He is fond of her, he likes her, but it's like an obsessive, dangerous type of like. And there's even a conversation where she says, well, I'm afraid you're gonna kill me. And he doesn't, like, he's like, I neither confirm nor deny, basically. So the whole thing is like really precarious and vicious, and you just feel like you're walking on eggshells the whole time. So it's not as like fun and adventurous, but you're also like, well, what's gonna happen? Like, is she gonna die? Is he gonna become good? Is he gonna become the hero? Is he gonna get worse? Is he just gonna kind of stay in the same pattern he is? Is it really just an obsession, and then he's just gonna like do all of his actions out like to progress this obsession with her? Or does he have a different motive? So you don't really know. And so all of this is unfolding. You're following the other characters in the story too, which I did appreciate, but I felt like because all of the characters used to kind of be in the same place, now they're all split up into different locations and like on the run, or trying to figure out their own problems of their own stories and trying to figure out their own story arcs, that it feels a little bit disjointed sometimes. I think the author did it well, but it's just like one of those moments when you're really wrapped up in what's happening with Rahela and the Emperor, and then it switches to like the Valerians, and you're just like, I want to know what's happening back home. I want to know what's happening at the castle or whatever. Or like the Cobra and these things. It's still funny. It's still a lot of interesting things. I did appreciate at the beginning of this story, it talks about her sister that's back in the real world opening the book and reading it and realizing that the story has changed. It's also something unique about this story and kind of confusing about this story is that it will have excerpts of the stories. I think the first book has it too, so let me try to find you an example. It's usually at the beginning of every chapter. So, like, I'll just give you chapter 1, so it's not really a spoiler. It says, the villainess faces death. Ours is a land of terrible miracles. Here the dead live and lies become true. Beware, here every fantasy is possible. Time of Iron, Anonymous. So there's a lot of things like that. But in book 2, a lot of them say like redacted or revised or something like that because the story is changing in real time. So that's kind of something interesting and unique about this series, but it's also a little bit confusing because you don't know what's actually a part of the story that you're reading versus what it was a part of the story before it changed. And it's kind of cool, but it is a little bit confusing. So you're reading it and you're like, well, did that happen or did it not? Is it going to happen or is this like a different timeline? So it's kind of weird. And I'm not gonna sit here and tell you the plot of the entire book because I think that that's silly, but I did like it. I think the parts with Key and Rahela are obviously my favorites. So when it was away from them, it was a little bit like, but I want to know what's going on. I want to know how the story's going to end, right? But I think it's a lot of building of the tension because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if he's going to snap. We don't know if he's going to become good. I don't think he is. But Rahela thinks that he's going to become the hero, and she sees this like what she thinks is like some sort of oracle or messenger from a god that she calls upon, but you don't know. She doesn't know this world, so she doesn't know if she's calling upon the right god. And they basically tell her that he has to find his true love, Key, to become good, and she's not it. So she starts trying to find somebody else that he will love. And meanwhile, he just wants her. And he like proposes to her, I think, in the end of the first book, and she accepts in this book. She doesn't know what else to do. And there's a part of her that does love him and does really care about him because he's her favorite character, but she's like, I don't know how to reconcile all of these emotions and thoughts and his actions and the consequences, but we're both villains. We're both like want things. We've both been betrayed by people and hurt. Interesting dynamics. So there's like this little like kind of bridal competition that's not really a big deal, but it's like in the book. And then the Cobra and the Varises and just all these different families you're following and trying to figure out the storylines of and what it's all going to come to. There's these giant creatures. There's this like metal dragon. There's lots of things with the magic. There is some interesting elements where Key, because of his time in the abyss and the pit, he can, if he kills somebody, he can resurrect them. And so it's like a dead messenger. So he uses those to his advantage. And they start trading letters between the Cobra and Rahela. There's something that's interesting about that because he will intercept the letters and give them to her, but he can't read. I'm gonna say too much. I don't want to spoil everything about this book. It's just interesting, okay? But you do have that building tension of like, this is all gonna lead to something crazy in the third book. And I'm anxious to get to the third book. But so many things happening, it gets kind of sinister, and I think Rahela ends up thinking that she's got to escape at some point, and things happen, people die. But I did overall like it. I think it is, like I said, it's confusing, and it's a little bit strange when you're reading it with all of the kind of flashbacky things, the stories of the characters that are more unveiled to you, the lore, what was past lore, what is current lore, what is actually happening in these stories. The gods and the oracles become like, they're talked about a little bit more, but it's also a little bit confusing. Overall, I think if you did like the first book, you'll like this one. I feel like I'm just kind of rambling a lot about this. I'm sorry. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars and not 5 stars because of some of the stuff I'm mentioning, because it is a little bit of a second book. I don't want to say second book syndrome because it's not like it's bad, but there's a lot to tie together and you're following a lot of different directions. You're even following a POV of somebody in the court politics that's just like, he's an awful person, and just like a little conniving person, which isn't fun, but you're getting his perspective. You're getting a lot of different perspectives like that. So you jump around a lot and the timeline's kind of interesting, but you're also wondering about, well, what about the sister that was just talked about in the beginning of the book that she's noticing the story changed? So there's a lot of like pieces at play. And so because it's complicated and intricate like that, and you're following so many characters, you're just kind of like, how is this all tying together? Where is this all going to meet up? Because you know it's going to blow up, right? The ending is pretty crazy, talking about the gods potentially becoming more of a player and what that means for all the characters, and I want it to end with the villain getting the girl. And And I don't know if it's going to, because it never really does usually, but because this series is so unique, I hope it does. I hope something happens like that. Or are they just going to come back to the real world? I don't know. It is kind of fun, though, because you do get to see the characters. Like I've shared, I've really enjoyed the trope of the characters being able to go into their favorite books. This is another one of those tropes from several years ago. But I enjoy the commentary that they have of, like, enjoying being in the book, but also scared and kind of wanting to go home and it not being fun anymore. And it being really complicated and dangerous. And I'm just so curious about what's going to happen. So I feel like it was a lot of build-up, a lot of tension building, a lot of storylines that are splitting off into a lot of different directions and trying to tie up some pieces to then bring them all together, even if it's not all resolved right now, because it's not. They're very much in a lot of different places. But I'm desperate to know what happens, and now I have to wait. So Sarah Reese Brennan, if you're watching this, I doubt you are, if you would love to send me an audio arc of the next one as soon as it's available, I will gladly listen to and review that. And talk about how much I love Key. It's also kind of fun to bond with a character in a book about their love for the villains. It's fun. If you've read these stories, if you've read these books, I would love to know your opinions on them. Like, if you like the first one and your thoughts on it, and then the second one if you have read it or want to read it. It kind of ends, I'll give you a spoiler. Don't want the ending spoiled, don't watch. But it ends with Key's dad, who's a god, coming back. And they, like, kind of meet each other in battle, but then it's like, this was a play fight, father and son bonding moment. So what, like, fiery hellscape are they about to unleash on everyone? And does Key still want to marry Rahela? It seems like he does at the end of this. But he figures out a lot of things. He figures out that she's like a witch or something and not of the world. He can read, which he kept from her, that kind of blew my mind. I wasn't expecting that. He's a little bit sneaky. There's one chapter POV that's narrated by Shane East, and it was perfection. I love him as a narrator, and I was hoping we would get more of Key's POV. So I'm hoping that the next book, that's going to be more of an element, and it's going to bring Key's POV in a lot more. The story is just so, like, unique, but also, I don't know, there's just something about it that I get and that I really like. I'm in a void right now. I literally just finished it, and I'm reeling and trying to figure out all of everything. But also, when will book 3 come out? It did say that the story's gonna continue in book 3. This was such a rambling mess. But I just wanted to talk about it because I did have the audio arc and I just finished it and I'm so excited about it. Give me grace. Those were my rambling thoughts / review of this audio arc that I got of A Time of Iron Book 2, All Hail Chaos. I really enjoyed it. As a villain lover, it's kind of it's just a fun series. So if you like villains, maybe you should also read it. I mean, I want you guys to read it, but only if you want to, you know? I've had a lot of fun with it. It's also funny when they just give you, like, modern day references, and then the book characters are like, what? It's just a good time. But I will stop rambling. I've been doing it this whole video. Those were my thoughts / review on All Hail Chaos. If you've read it, I would love to discuss the book with you or discuss the series with you so far. But thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye.